What's up, hockey fans, and welcome back to the Good Goal Podcast. This is episode 20, the Big 2-0. I'm Christian Brady here from Foxborough, Massachusetts. That's Matt Tiart back in Clemson, South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
As we start class today, I don't know how much work you've done. I know you just had golf class.
I had my golf class. I thought it was awesome. The professor said we got to learn the rarely known 11th commandment, which is thou shalt not three-putt, which I thought was awesome.
Very good one. Very good one. I adhere to that for sure. Yeah, good for him. So, classes start today, and thank God we got something to distract us because these have been the best playoffs ever.
Oh, it's awesome.
Feels like just because.
Unbelievable.
It's like I said, I predicted it. It was like we don't have hockey for 3 months, and then it comes back in such, like, ridiculous doses. It's like we're not going to be able to handle it, and I haven't been able to handle it.
No, it's actually for the first time in my life I've had hockey overload, where it's like I might have to like skip this game so I can enjoy the next one because it's just
exactly.
So much.
It's like I got to get off the couch and move over so I don't leave it dead.
Yeah,
I'm just sitting there all day, moving up to my room, watching one on my computer, then down to the basement on the TV.
Yeah. When there's a 12, 3, 6, 8, and 10:30 game, you're bound to skip one of them just to eat.
And you and I were just talking about this too. Every game is good, so it's not like you could walk away halfway through the third period and be like, I know how this game ends, because there's been like 2 or 3 games that have been like that, and they were both in the Flyers series.
Well, and Colorado 7-1.
Okay, true.
But that was so exciting because Colorado was just like, all right, how many are they going to put up? Because they had 6 in the first 2 periods.
Yeah, I know, man. But yeah, it's just been awesome. Why don't we get some news out of the way, and then we'll get right into updates because it's been awesome.
Yeah, we like to get our sad stuff out of the way first so we can.
Yeah, so some sad news. Hall of Famer Dale Hawerchuk passed away at age 57 after a long battle with cancer. Like I said, Hall of Famer, he's got a huge rap sheet. Just some of it is Calder Trophy in 82, 1,400 career points, 1,409 to be exact. Over 16 seasons with the Jets, Blues, Sabres, and Flyers. One of the game's greats. Great guy from what we hear. He's been a junior coach ever since he retired. Always around the game, and this is a sad loss for the hockey community for sure.
For sure. 57 is way too young.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said it perfectly. One of the game's all-time greats. Won multiple gold medals with Gretzky and Lemieux. Calder Trophy in 82. I mean, this guy was a stud. He was actually on my ultimate team back in NHL 18. This guy just knew how to get the puck in the net, whether he was scoring or assisting. Huge loss for the hockey community is an understatement. So.
Yeah, cancer is just a terrible disease. So.
Yeah. So shout out to his family. We're thinking about you.
Definitely, and all of those communities and everybody really. I mean, I think every single hockey Twitter account tweeted about this, and even for teams that he didn't affect directly, it was still a big loss. So speaks how great of a guy and a player he was. So rest in peace.
Yeah, this is up there with like, I don't know why I just blanked on his name. Now I feel horrible.
Richard, I remember, was recent.
Yeah.
Henry Richard.
Yeah, the guys like that, Mr. Hockey dying, like he's up there with them. So. Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to some less sad but still sad news.
Yeah.
Tuukka Rask leaves the bubble for a family emergency and opts out of the season. If this were in a vacuum, I would say it's okay, but this is the important part that I'm about to read right now. This is following comments about not being in prime shape, feeling like he's playing in exhibition games, and here's the kicker. He said, not quoting, but paraphrasing, it's just a weird environment, so I'm just going to play, not worry about results, and just try to have fun. And that is a game 2 through 8 attitude. That is not a playoff game 1 attitude. It's so hard. There's a lot of hate around Tuukka Rask in Boston, and I'm a defender. I come on here and defend him all the time, Matt. I know you know that about me.
Yeah.
I support anyone's decision to leave the bubble for any reason at this point. mental health obviously is big. That's a possibility with Tuca. Family, he's got a newborn child, and also 2 other young kids, young girls, I think. So any mental, physical health, family reasons to leave the bubble, absolutely. I can't just like leave it at that though for this one for some reason. It just feels like something else is at play. Like it really feels like he didn't want to be there and he just left, and that like hurts me as a fan.
It's unfortunate because you're a Boston fan, so it's like it definitely hits you harder than a lot of other people. It was so weird. The whole situation was weird because it was like literally the day before. He was like,
yeah, we heard at 10 a.m. when there was a 12 a.m. game.
Yeah, so the day before he's like, there's no fans. This doesn't feel like the playoffs. Like I'm just out here to have fun. And then literally 10 a.m. before a noon puck drop, who's y'all's GM? Don Sweeney comes out and he's like, so Tuca opted out. We fully back him. We knew this. His response was super weird too. He was like, we knew this was coming. Like, what? You knew that the Vezina Trophy winner is just leaving?
Right.
And then Brian Boucher was super sincere about it pregame, and Mike Milbury gave him a whooping. I mean, he tore into him. And I texted you that. I said, Boucher was sincere, Milbury is pissed, and you said that is the exact reaction from both of them that I was expecting.
Yeah. And I said everybody, I think, falls somewhere in the middle of the two of them. So
yeah.
That's where I fall.
They're both
more
extreme.
towards Boucher. But, yeah, Milbury's from Walpole, Mass. That's 20 minutes down the street from me. He knows what it's like around Boston.
So he even said, I grew up there. I played for Boston. I coached Boston. The Boston community is not going to react well. And his final comments were, this might be Tuca's last game as a Bruin. And it was like, what? So I'm in the middle because I sat here on this podcast and said, and it's on record, it's on tape, that if someone is opting out for family or health reasons, you are not allowed to bash them. And if you do, you're wrong.
100%.
But I'm with you. There's something about this one I can't let go because of his prior comments saying, well, it doesn't really feel like playoffs, and then he just leaves. I'm not willing to accept that fact because an example close to home for me is Lars Eller, who's on the Capitals, went home, missed the birth of his child, actually, got to D.C. the day after his child was born, stayed there for 2 days, came back, did 4 days of negative tests, and he was allowed to play. Like, there's something about his priorities that aren't right.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, family comes first. I hope, God, this is such a weird thing to say. I hope nothing's wrong with his family, but I hope he had a reason to go back. Does that make sense to you?
That makes perfect sense.
I really want to know that Tuukka Rask cares about hockey. He's just left because something else was pulling at him and he needed to leave. And if that were the case, 100% I stand by him. I just really, really hope that he didn't leave just because he didn't want to be there, because that's complete betrayal of his teammates. And to be honest, it's a betrayal of us, the fans, and the whole organization who watch him and like cheer for him to play well, and me who defends him against all the people who don't like him.
I think I speak for both of us.
Situation.
I think I speak for both of us when I say it's the way the situation played out that has us frustrated. If we had some more clarity on why he left, we would be a lot more willing to forgive and let it pass. But
definitely,
the way he reacted, the way he just bounced, and the way Don Sweeney worded his explanation, it's like, it's not shady, but it's weird.
Yeah. It's just a little bit off.
I also I apologize a lot on the show because I have a lot of hot takes and I have to backtrack. When I texted you, I was like, did you see Tuukka opt out? You were like, what? I was like, this story is not getting enough credit because he's not just a top 5 goalie. He's going to win the Vezina. He's the
Mhm.
best goalie. He was the best goalie in the league this year, and he's just said, "I'm out." So it's insane.
Yep. All right. Well, why don't we stay on the topic of goaltending and move on in the same breath? There are a couple other goaltending mysteries that seem, they're just interesting to discuss. So Tomas Greiss has not played since the qualifying round where he and Varlamov split time.
Yep.
Greiss was far and away the number one guy in New York this year and in the past. So it's just odd. You've watched the series. I'm sure they've talked about it a little bit. Has he been on the bench?
No, they don't bring him up at all, and that's because Varlamov has been playing lights out. So
Yeah, he really
I have no idea. Our last episode, I was talking, and I felt like we didn't do our research or we just didn't know hockey because when we were previewing the Dallas Stars game, I was like, yeah, Ben Bishop's going to be the X factor. He's not even playing. I was talking about Tomas Greiss. He's not playing. I'm like, what? Where are these guys that we were talking about? Cam Talbot for Calgary is playing amazing, and I even said Calgary doesn't have any goaltending. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But Varlamov has been playing lights out. That's why Greiss is on the bench.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's just been such a weird situation because, as you mentioned quickly, in Dallas, Anton Khudobin has been playing. And I don't know, a lot of people know Khudobin. He's been around the league. He's probably one of the funniest, weird guys of all time. He's exactly what you think of when you think of a goalie. He's just so off. And honestly, he's playing very, very well right now.
Yeah.
But Ben Bishop, who is obviously a Vezina caliber goalie, there hasn't been a single word about where he is. Me being a Boston fan, I can tell you from my experience watching press conferences and stuff that even with the, unfit to play whole thing where teams don't have to release any information about what is happening with their players. Bruce Cassidy has at least updated us, the fans and the media, about what's going on with players, where they are. We knew when Andre Kasha was coming to the bubble. He had to stay a couple days, so we knew all about that. Ben Bishop, I don't know if this is just me missing anything. There's absolutely nothing being said about him. All we know is that he's unfit to play. We don't know if he's in the bubble. He has not been on the bench. We don't know where he is.
So, intermission report with Liam McHugh and Patrick Sharp and Anson, they were saying that Ben Bishop is Vezina caliber, but his injuries have hindered his legacy lately. But I don't know if that's the reason or not. They, like you said, they haven't been clear at all on what's going on, and it's great that Khudobin's playing amazing, but to me, if you are going to win a cup, you need a Ben Bishop caliber guy.
Yeah, there was a quick nugget from Pierre Maguire that was just all he did was say, yeah, people are wondering where Ben Bishop is and what's going on, but Khudobin has played well. I'm like, yeah, I am wondering. Do you know anything about it? It really sounds like nobody knows anything.
Let us know, Pierre.
I know. Who knows? If Pierre knew, I don't know. Pierre's a weird guy. We've talked about Pierre on here a lot.
We're not fans of Pierre. We're going to be open about it.
No, I don't like Pierre Maguire. Unless he wants to hire me, then I love
I am a huge fan of moving Brian Boucher to primetime Eastern Coast game.
Dude, he has been awesome. I don't know if I've made this.
Out.
I've definitely made this comparison to you. I don't know if I've done it on the podcast. He's hockey's Tony Romo. He's awesome behind the booth because he looked behind the booth, in the booth, behind the glass is what they call it. Because he's in his own little bubble down there, which is kind of funny. But he really is. He takes you into the mind of goalies, which is something that even the best hockey minds ever cannot do because the minds of goalies are so weird. And he is able to do it. He can tell you exactly what he's thinking. And
awesome.
He has relationships. The best part, and this is where the Tony Romo comes in, he has relationships with the guys, so he can tell you really what they're like. Ben Bishop is a guy who's been around, but also hockey's a family, and you basically know everyone you're playing against unless they're very new. And he has those relationships with those guys, which makes his commentary very interesting, and I love every time he speaks. He's awesome.
Yeah, the best part for me is when he calls out a goalie for cheating too much or coming out of the crease too much because he did it himself playing.
Exactly, and he says that. He's the first to admit. He's like,
Yeah,
I'm not half as good as any of these goalies.
yeah,
I'll
exactly.
tell
It's
you what they
awesome.
did wrong.
He's so good. Anyway,
Oh, okay. Why don't we move on to some other injuries / bubble leaving? Vladimir Tarasenko, and a huge loss for the Blues, leaves the bubble for more work with a specialist in St. Louis on his surgically repaired shoulder. We think he rushed back for this. The original timeline was done for the year. He'll be back next season. Obviously, timelines were moved up when the season got pushed back. He worked hard to get back. Sounds like they rushed him back a little bit. So he either re-aggravated or it just never fully healed for him. So he's out of the bubble and back at St. Louis. He is not opted out. That's an important distinction. He could return if they go back and say, oh, it's fine. It just hurts, but you can play. He can come back 4 straight days of tests. I don't really know exactly what it is, but it's either a
yeah, it
quarantine.
is. It's
or
4 straight days of negative tests. So I thought it was like a 10-day quarantine, but you have to quarantine 4 straight days and 4 negative tests on each day. That's what Lars Eller did.
And then
But
he can get going.
I want to point out that it's not just 4 tests and you're thrown back in the lineup, because Lars Eller was stuck in his room. Like, you can't leave your room. So these guys aren't ready to kill a penalty, like, from their hotel room.
Oh, yeah.
They got a couple
Definitely
days
not.
to, like, get back in the game shape. So it's like 7 or 8 days.
So for Tarasenko, it seems unlikely, but for other players who have left the bubble for whatever reason, it's not like that's the end all be all. They could technically come back. Same goes
Yeah.
for Tuukka.
I like that.
Possibly comes back. Me too. It makes their decision easier because Tarasenko, if he needs work on his shoulder, if he weren't able to go back, he probably wouldn't have left. I mean, I don't know the situation, but
Yeah.
if he was on the fence about whether he should play with it or not, and the team doctor couldn't get into Edmonton where they are, he probably would have just played and made his shoulder worse instead of leaving and coming back. So hopefully that's the case and he gets back in the lineup because he's a fun guy to watch as much as I hate the Blues.
They're going to need him to go back to back. That's all I got to say.
Definitely. Okay, David Pastrnak has been out since game 1. I don't know if you saw it, Matt, on the goal, the overtime goal by Bergeron, on which he made an incredible pass to Patrice Bergeron, and Bergeron was able to score. He went up with his hands and celebrated, and then immediately clutched his stomach, abdomen, whatever you want to call it, and has been out ever since. So it looks like an abdomen injury. I don't think it happened then. I think he was hurt, and just instinctual when the puck goes in, he reacts, celebrates, and it hurts. The general tone from Bruce Cassidy is day-to-day. We're being safe. Right now, it doesn't look like he needs to play. The Bruins have looked really good without him. And if this were like Game 5 Stanley Cup Finals, I would imagine he'd be in the lineup. It's just this early. They're going to need him for a run if they make one, so it's better to keep him out. That's the tone I get. But, again, recurring theme, we really don't know anything.
No. I agree with you. They're going to need him if they're going to make a deep playoff run, but they're up 3-1. The way they've rallied around Halak after the Rask debacle, they don't need him. I picked the Canes to win, but I don't see them losing tonight because ever since Rask left, they've just been absolutely dominant. So
yeah, they really have. And the debate sparked: do you want Tuukka Rask who doesn't care, or do you want Jaro Halak who will do anything to get the win? Tuukka obviously being such a better goalie, and I know we'll discuss this later, but it is an interesting conversation. Why don't we stay within the series? We'll talk about Andrei Svechnikov. He suffered a leg injury in a net front battle with Zdeno Chara in Game 3. It was really ugly. He just got twisted around, his toe dug in, and it looked like his ankle or his knee really could have popped. No definitive news. All we know is that he missed Game 4. Nothing has been said about Game 5 yet, which is 4 hours from now as we record this on Wednesday. I don't know. Like you said before this, if I had to guess, he's out for the year just because of how it looked. But you never really know. He had no brace or anything on when he was watching the game from the stands. So that could be a good sign. We don't know. No crutches in sight. So that's all we know.
It's so weird because it's a bubble situation. So I'm assuming if he had to get surgery, he would leave the bubble.
I would imagine.
So the way it looked, to me, it was a torn ankle or a torn Achilles because his leg was going the absolute wrong way when he fell. But best of luck. I mean, if they somehow pull out a win tonight and even if he's close to 100%, he needs to be back out there because it's do or die. So
definitely. And leg injuries are weird where it can make a guy a much worse player, but I agree with you.
We didn't have it in the script, but Nicholas Backstrom for the Capitals, Anders Lee had and I'm clearly biased, but it was a defenseless player, and I think he only got 2 minutes. Tom Wilson would have got suspended for 6 years and thrown in the pit of misery for that hit. Ever since then, Anders Lee's been a targeted man. The point of me saying all this is that Backstrom is still out. He is our quarterback on the power play. He is our best center, even though we put Kuznetsov on the front line. If we're going to win this series, we need him back. Because we're down 3-1. And if we're going to make a playoff run, we definitely need him back.
Yeah.
So that's all I got on that. But
all right. Cool. So why don't we move into the series? We're going to start in the West. Vegas Golden Knights make the first elimination of the playoffs. They, the number 1 seed, beat Chicago, the number 12 seed, 4-1. I had Chicago winning the series just because how well they looked, how good they looked in the qualifying round, and it did not reciprocate. Vegas just walked all over them, other than the one game they won when they were down 3-0. Pretty decisive win for Vegas, and now they get some rest, which I'm sure will be helpful.
what was my prediction? Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, I think you had Vegas.
I did have Vegas. I
In 6.
can't remember.
In 6, so Vegas in 5. That's pretty good, Matt. Good for you. Sorry.
Robin Lehner hadn't lost a game until Game 4 for Vegas, like regular season and postseason. It's weird that they went with him because Marc-Andre Fleury, from what I've heard, is healthy and ready to go. But I'm not a big fan of Marc-Andre Fleury just because of what he's done to the Capitals. But the respect I have for him and the fact that he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, I mean, he's such a big locker room presence. He's such a leader on the bench. He's such a leader on and off the ice, even when Robin Lehner's starting over him. Robin Lehner playing as well as he is and having guys like Marc-Andre Fleury in the locker room, Vegas is very dangerous, and they right now they look like they could win the cup tomorrow.
Yeah, this always seems to happen to Marc-Andre Fleury. It's so weird because Matt Murray, obviously a young guy, it's a little bit of a different situation. But him getting Bledsoe by Matt Murray and then not playing the entire playoffs.
Yeah.
He's still, dare I say, he's a Hall of Famer, I would say. And he, again, finds himself on the bench when he was the clear number one before any of this happened, you know? They went out and got Lehner at the deadline, Vegas did, because they felt like they could use the help. And now Lehner's the number one guy, and it doesn't look like they're going to look back until they see something from him that says he can't win hockey games anymore. It's just sad for Fleury because he did struggle a little bit this year, but the fact is he would start on 15 NHL teams. It just thinks that he keeps finding himself in situations where his team is not one of them, you know?
It's very sad because this is like the third time it's happened to him in his career.
I know. So here's the situation, Matt. Lehner plays again next year, and they protect him, Vegas does. And Fleury goes to Seattle and starts another expansion franchise.
So,
what do you think?
Lehner's a UFA. He signed a 1-year deal with Chicago.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So say Lehner wins a cup, he's getting $12 million a year from whoever wants to take it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Which is crazy because he was a Vezina finalist the year before last, and he signed a 1-year, $5 million with Chicago to split time with Corey Crawford, which was like so weird to me.
It's just a holdover for him, which is smart. I don't know how old he is, but I don't think he's too old.
I'm hope he does that, like 1 year, $6 million, and then goes to Seattle because I think he could benefit from that. My dad is very high on that. He's the one who gave me that idea, but I don't know. I think we've talked about this before. I think Holtby's already signed his ticket regardless. But anyway,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that when we get to the Capital Series. But Robin Lehner, he looks like a Stanley Cup winning goalie right now. That's my final thought on this series.
Cool. All right, let's move on. Colorado Avalanche, the number 2 seed versus 11 Arizona. Colorado leads 3-1. All of their victories have been decisive, including a 7-1 win. Colorado is in the driver's seat here. I don't see it ending any other way. I'd say Colorado wins it at least 5 or 6. Goes to 7.
I think Colorado wins. I think they play tonight.
Yeah.
The way I worded it purposefully when I was talking about Vegas. I said it looks like they could win the cup tomorrow. The only team standing in the way is Colorado. Colorado, to me, looks like the best team in hockey. They are they could score on anybody at any time, and Grubauer's playing great. They're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, he is.
I picked Colorado and Vegas in the Western Conference Finals. To me, it looks like it's a guarantee unless something crazy happens that it's going to be Colorado-Vegas, and that is going to be a 7-round heavyweight fight, and I'm
Yeah.
They are both putting up massive numbers. They both got great goalies. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Colorado, like I said, they look awesome. I have to agree with you. But I will say you better hold off because the other two teams, the other 2 top seeds in the West look really good as well. So let's move on to Dallas, the number 3 seed. They lead the Flames 3-2 after being down 2-1.
Yep.
They've now won 2 in a row. Game 4, overtime. What was it? Klingberg scored, who I love. We talked about him before. Like you mentioned before, Cam Talbot playing awesome for Calgary. That's the reason I brought up Game 4. They had like 60 shots, and they scored 5 to 10 minutes into the first overtime, which means they had more than 40 or 50 in regulation. Cam Talbot stand on his head, still gets a loss, which you always hate to see. It happened in round 1 in Game 1 with Tampa and Columbus, and we'll talk about that later, where Korpisalo breaks the record for all-time saves in an NHL game and loses. Dallas, I think, looks awesome. 2 wins in a row where they look very good with perennial backup goalie Anton Udobin, who's played on all 32 teams basically at this point.
Yeah.
As a backup. So they look awesome. I really think they look great. And that's why I think that you should bite your tongue when you talk about Vegas and Colorado, because Dallas is right up there, and I have them going to the finals. And I'm still gonna keep them there. I think they look great.
Yeah, you're biased because you have Dallas in the finals and you want to ride with that. Every game but one in this series has been decided by 1 goal. That means you're playing awesome hockey. Both goalies early, Cam Talbot played great, and then he gave up 5 goals in Game 2, and then had a shutout in Game 3. So it seems like these teams just keep like going back and forth. I think Calgary wins tomorrow when they play, and then Game 7 is just going to be crazy.
All right,
that's my prediction.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay,
in this series, Matthew Tkachuk's still out, right?
Yes.
That's a huge loss because he's such a leader in that locker room.
He really is, and Brad Marchand type just can completely change the outlook of a game based on emotion.
Yeah.
He just has that ability to rile another team up, and when you get a star going, like I'll mention Tyler Seguin, if Matthew Tkachuk were able to get him off his game, or Jamie Benn, it just seems like they wouldn't have a chance of winning. And he does that so well. And same goes for Marchand. Same goes for Tom Wilson. These guys can change games more than, the average fan would realize, just because the emotions that they bring into this game seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah, he gets that from his Hall of Fame dad, so.
Yeah, not to mention he can put the puck away too. So
exactly.
It's a big loss for Calgary. Okay, last series, St. Louis Blues versus, they're the number 4 seed against the 7 Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver jumped out to a 2-0 lead. St. Louis looks like they've taken control of the series, winning the last 2. St. Louis is in the driver's seat, even though it's 2-2. I don't count Vancouver out, but I said before, it doesn't look like they have much of a chance. St. Louis looked great in the last 2 games. They lost 6 games in a row, or I guess if you count the exhibition, it was 7. No, 6, including it, because there were 3 round robin games.
Yeah.
As soon as they won that first game, it happened with the Bruins. It's the reason I said on the last episode that the team that won the first game in the Carolina series would win the series. Same thing goes for St. Louis. They win a game, and they finally realize that they're an actual hockey team again. And I don't think they'll look back.
Yeah. I think Vancouver gave everything they had and a bag of chips in game 1. Absolutely destroying St. Louis 5-2. And then they squeak out a victory. They were getting outplayed. They squeak out a victory in game 2, go up 2-0. And then I think the tide just turned with the Blues winning the overtime game in game 3. And then they win decisively in game 4. This series reminds me of when the Capitals won in 18. We went down 2-0 to Columbus. And then we squeaked out an overtime win in game 3 and just never looked back. I think St. Louis is going to do that. I don't think Vancouver wins another game. I think St. Louis, gentlemen's sweep. I think they win the next 2, and it's on the
Hard to call you crazy for that prediction. It does seem like it's going that way. Let's move on.
I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the East. The Philadelphia Flyers, the number 1 seed against the number 12 seed, Montreal Canadiens. The Flyers lead the series 3-1. Montreal's only win coming the day after Coach Claude Julien was diagnosed with heart trouble, had to leave the bubble to get treatment.
Had to get
Sad
surgery.
news about Claude Julien.
Yeah.
Had to get surgery, put a stent into his heart. They rallied around him that first game back and won 5-0. Looked amazing. But other than that game, the Flyers have driven this series. They look great. I don't think they look back. I think they win the series. We didn't mention Claude Julien until now, so just best wishes to him.
Absolutely.
As a coach to Boston, I loved him in Boston. Didn't think he fit. He's since evolved. This Montreal team has that defensive, physical mindset that Boston always had under Claude Julien, but they do have that offensive flair. Just a great coach, great guy. I wish him the best, but I think the Flyers win this series.
What's up? Sorry, I'm doing my podcast. You can come say hi to the camera.
Oh, who we got?
Marissa.
Oh, Marissa. Hello, Marissa.
For everyone that's listening and watching, Marissa's the one who edited our hockey show on Tiger Vision. That amazing intro with shipping up to Boston, all her. It was awesome. Anyway, do you need something? No, I'll be done soon, I promise. Hey, go ahead.
I'm professional in that.
I know, this is ridiculous. Carey Price stood on his head game 1, and they still lost. And then with the momentum he had carrying into game 2 and the loss of Claude Julien, that team was riding so much emotion. It made sense that they won 5-0. And then I don't know what Carter Hart did. I don't know what the goalie coach said to him, but back-to-back shutouts after giving up 5 goals. Unbelievable. This kid is only 22. I picked Montreal because of Carey Price, but Carter Hart has been the difference. So I think you're right. The Flyers don't look back. They win this series.
Okay. All right. Why don't we move on? Number 2, Tampa Bay against number 9, Columbus. Despite this series being 3-1 Tampa, I think that this has been the best series so far, other than Dallas and Calgary. Every single game has been close, including a 5 overtime game to start the series, to start the playoffs, really.
Yep.
Absolute nightmare scenario for the NHL, having to move back games, and you share one ice surface for an entire league. It's really difficult to not have this happen, and it happens night 1. But that was just an unbelievable game. Like I said before, Korpisalo breaks the record. He now is the goaltender with the most saves in a single NHL game.
No one will ever break that.
But every single game has been good. Tampa has eked out wins. Columbus, really the only decisive victory in game 2. They won 4-1 or something like that. So Columbus looks great. Tampa looks great. Don't put Columbus to bed just because how close these series have been. I do think Tampa wins, but Columbus has looked great. I expect game 5 and hopefully 6 and hopefully 7 to all be great games. What do you got on
that? Game 1 starts at 3:00, ends at like 11:30 Eastern. Yeah, they had to move back to 8:00, which is insane to say that a 3:00 game had to push back the 8:00 game to the next day because they would have started so late. Blue Jackets won 3-1 game 2. I think it was an empty net, so all of these games have been decided by one goal.
Okay.
You're right. Even though Tampa's up 3-1, this has been to me the best series as well. Very physical. Tampa's pissed off about last year. Tortorella is such a character. It's awesome.
He's got that edge all the time. So
I hope the Blue Jackets win. I think puck drop was like 10 minutes ago as we're recording.
Yeah.
I hope the Blue Jackets win this game just so we can see some more of this series because it's been awesome.
It's been awesome.
And again, Korpisalo, 85 saves and still lost. I feel so bad for that guy. He deserves free beers, free dinner in Columbus for the rest of his life after that game. And no one is ever going to break 85 saves in a game. So
there's no way.
I hope, since it was played in Toronto, I hope they got his skates or his pad or his stick from that game so they can put it in the Hockey Hall of Fame because that is unbelievable.
Definitely they got something.
Yeah.
So we'll have to go visit and we'll see it. Yeah, they just shipped it down the road. Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's what I'm
close.
saying. They're right there.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to let you introduce this next one and kick us off because I know you got thoughts on it.
Oh, God. You're going to let me go first? I got so many rants to do on this one.
Okay. I'll sit back. I'll go to the bathroom. I don't care if you go for 10 minutes.
Number 3, Washington Capitals. Number 6, New York Islanders. The Islanders are up 3-1 in the series. Sadly enough, it sounds bad to say this as a Capitals fan, I wanted the sweep. Todd Reirden, to me, is the problem. We won a cup. We gave Barry Trotz a 4-year contract, and in those 4 years, he's the winningest coach in hockey, wins the division 3 times, and wins a cup. And we say, you know what, you're not worth the money, which is unbelievable to me. And then he goes to New York and says, you know what, if we play you, I'm just going to absolutely shut you down and be the best defensive team you've ever seen. And that's what he's been. It pisses me off so much. To me, Todd Reirden is not ready to be a head coach. He's not a good enough leader because he disciplines these guys like game 81, which is ridiculous. So as a fan, as a true diehard, I bleed Capitals red, I wanted the sweep. I wanted short-term disappointment for long-term success. Because to me, Todd Reirden's not the guy, and I was willing to get swept to have an excuse to fire him. Now, we have a win. I'm ready for the Capitals to be the 5th team ever to come back from a 3-0 deficit. I don't think we're going to do it because the Islanders are so good defensively. But, yeah, that's my rant. Unfortunately, we didn't get swept, so we have an excuse to keep the coaching staff because the coaching staff has been disappointing, pathetic, disgusting. Any synonyms that go with those 3 words you could throw out there?
Yeah, so it would be a splash to fire a coach after such a crazy situation. With that being said, I think getting swept in the first round would have been that reason.
From a lower
seed.
That
one win, by a lower seed. Getting that one win, while it seems insignificant, especially, I don't want to jinx it, but especially if they lose tomorrow night, and this series ends 4-1, it doesn't seem like much of a difference. But it makes it harder to fire Todd Reirden because it really is tough to justify saying this is something that's never happened before, but you weren't able to handle it. You're fired. This is never going to happen again, hopefully, knock on wood. So how do you judge him based on handling a situation that has never happened and never will happen? You want to fire him or keep him based on his decision-making in normal hockey play. So it really would be tough to fire him. As sports fans, it's so natural for us to scapegoat. And there's, I mean, there's no other problems. You have Braden Holtby, who's an unreal goalie. Ovechkin, who's looked great, by the way, in this series, looked awesome. He was like 4 or 5 goals, right?
He has 4 goals in this series.
He's looked great. I mean, forward, defenseman, the team is so stacked with talent, and they're still not able to win in the playoffs. So there has to be a reason to look for. And unfortunately, you look straight behind the bench to Todd Reirden. It just seems like he's not the guy to get it done, like you said. So for your sake, I hope he's out. If they win another game, I don't think it's possible that he gets fired after this season.
No, I don't think it's possible now. I think you worded it perfectly. In a global pandemic, I think the only way you could justify is if you just get absolutely trashed,
Right.
which we were on track to do because we went down 2-0 in the first period, and then we scored 3 unanswered. So, and it's weird to me because it's almost like he has a switch of he doesn't know what he's doing to being a good coach, because he is a good coach. I just don't think he's ready to be a head coach. I mean, he has multiple Stanley Cups as an assistant coach. But, I mean, last night, the last 40 minutes, we were absolutely suffocating. And it's like, where has this team been? Why do we have to go down 3-0 to start playing like this? So it's hard for me because I'm not in the locker room, but it just seems like the talent we have, like you said, our power play has been top 5 in the league ever since Ovi came in the league. Braden Holtby is a Vezina Trophy winner, and also has the Stanley Cup, and we don't win it without him. It's got to be coaching.
D-Corps is as strong as any other team.
Yeah, we have the Norris Trophy winner on our team.
Right. I mean, you're right. You got to look somewhere, and Todd Reirden's the guy you look to.
And I don't think I've ever ranted about this, publicly wanting to fire the coach of my own team. But again, with the amount of talent we have on our team, when we're healthy, we're, to me, other than Tampa, the most stacked team depth-wise in hockey. And it's frustrating to see because it shows in the regular season. We dominate everybody. We won our division 5 years in a row, and we can't even get out of the first round 3 out of those 5 years. It's so frustrating. I get so pissed off when people say it was a fluke that we won the cup, but it looks like that. And people in the organization are saying, well, remember when we won the cup, we went down 2-0. Remember if we stop living in the past, we're not going to win that way. Great, we won a cup. It was awesome. That was also 2 years ago, and we lost to the 7 seed last year in 7 games. I mean, we got outclassed by Carolina last year. We're getting outclassed this year by the Islanders. Who cares that we won a cup 2 years ago? There.
Yeah.
I'm done ranting.
Okay. Yeah, the Islanders have played this series exactly like they want to. We predicted it's the same thing that's going on in Montreal, or that we thought would go on in Montreal, but it's really playing out in this series where Washington can just overpower them if they really want to, unless New York plays a smart style. And they have. It's the typical Barry Trotz. You block shots, you take the shots from the outside, and you take your opportunities when you can get them. A lot of these games have been even, or even the Caps are out shooting, but it really doesn't seem like you dominate. If you look at the box score, you don't get the story of these games because the Islanders really have played it to perfection to this point. And even last night, they did look good in the first period. So
they go up 1, they go up 2, and they always have 3 people back, which is so frustrating because you can't get clean entries, you can't get good looks. You have to shoot from the blue line. You can't get in the high slot. You can't get in the high danger zones. It's so frustrating. It's such a smart way to play too, because if you have physical guys like Matt Martin on your team, who has the NHL record for hits in the season, why wouldn't you play like that? So to me, I love Barry Trotz as a coach. I love him as a person. And good on him for playing to his strong suit. It's just frustrating being on the other side because there's not a lot you can do unless you score early and make them be aggressive, which we haven't. So.
Yeah, I feel your pain, Matt. I feel your pain. I mean, the Capitals situation now and before the 2018 Cup, was the same as the Bruins from 2012 to 2019. So I completely understand it. It's just, it really is tough to, be a part of it.
All right, let's
So I
move
feel
on.
for you. But
Throw
yeah,
that out
why don't we move on? There's one more. Number 4, Boston Bruins versus number 5, Carolina. Another great series where 3-1 maybe really doesn't tell the story. Boston has increasingly looked better in every game. They kind of laid an egg in the first period of Game 4, but then 4 unanswered goals in the third period. Well, it was 4 unanswered goals until one was answered, but 4 straight goals in the third period is a better way to say it. 4-3 victory in Game 4. I don't think they look back. The Bruins look more like the Bruins with every minute of every game, so I'm excited to see where they go. I don't think they've played their A game. Like famous Tiger Woods quote, I haven't had my A game for an entire tournament in my entire career. It feels exactly like that for Boston, where they're winning these games, but they have not had their A game yet, which is exciting as a fan, but also a little bit worrisome. If we didn't have this kind of lead, it'd be like, well, come on, let's get it going, right? So thank God they're able to eke out these wins. Thank God Halak has looked – first game, he looked amazing the first game he played. 2 nights ago, so-so, but they were able to still get the victory. So hopefully they continue to rally around him. Game today at 4. Hopefully that's the end of the series, speaking as a Bruins fan. But I want to hear your perspective from looking from the outside in.
So I'm living your worst fears that we're playing our F game until last night, and even then we were dominating after we took the lead, and that still is not our A game. You guys are in a position where it's okay to not bring your A game, and if Pasta comes back and you guys bring your A game, there's no one beating you from the East. So
Exactly.
I think it almost would be better if Carolina squeaked out a win tonight, so you guys could just have one more game to figure it out before facing your opponent in the second round. I think Carolina, with their back against the wall, Brendan Moore is going to draw up something, and they're going to play emotional, and it's going to be tough to beat them tonight. But
Definitely.
I agree with you. If Boston can come back healthy and Boston's healthy and they start playing their A game, they're the best team in hockey to me. So.
Yep. Today will definitely be a very, very tough game for both of them. I mean, Boston wants to get out of here. Carolina needs a win, obviously, facing elimination. So today will be a great game. Tune in, Matt. I want to talk about it with you once it's done.
And
but that's all we got.
Bruce Cassidy does not get the credit he deserves with the turnaround of this team.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. It does feel like they flipped the switch. Like we're theorizing maybe they could do. A lot of people say, well, it doesn't really work like that. I guess it does kind of work like that if you got the kind of talent and coaching that the Bruins have. So thank God. Yeah, like you said, the Capitals, you see glimpses of their A game and you're just like, come on, like, you got it now. Just get it going. It's just so frustrating to watch. But the Bruins are getting wins out of it even still. So we're in a good position. I'll leave it at that. And that's all we got for today. Our next show, we'll see the end of all these series, right? And probably the beginning of the next one. So next episode should be a lot of fun.
We'll probably come at you early next week so we can try to preview before we get too deep into the next series. So check out for that. Look out for that. It'll probably be on Monday, but.
Cool.
All right.
Go
subscribe to our sponsored streamer, Captain_ZT on Twitch. Got to thank our parents for sponsoring our podcast and also letting us follow our dreams in college.
Yes, definitely. Sponsoring in many different ways.
Yeah. The usual end of episode messages.
Beer Money Sports tonight. You got the whole TR clan. So.
Hopefully. Yeah. I wore my Mets jersey. I wore my Mets jersey last night because I was so pissed off at the Capitals, and we win. So it's like,
hey, there you go.
I just wear my.
And I know this is not a baseball podcast, but you got some bids on the Mets, so maybe the Wilpons are out. Who knows? We might be getting there.
I'll have to.
Alex Rodriguez and company might buy this team, so that would be very, very interesting.
I want that because we're going to send Pete Alonso to the Yanks for a bag of chips,
exactly.
Peter did with Miami.
Yep, exactly. So
I'll have you on Beer Money so we can talk other sports.
Yep, For sure.
All right. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.